Hello and welcome to my review of the Sisters of Battle Dialogus model from Games Workshop. Now this model will set you back £22.50 and I just have to say straight away that I think it is overpriced. It comes in this box. It's the smallest, thinnest box Games Workshop do for an individual character. It's nice that it gives you some close-ups of some of the detail on the model. But in my opinion, it's not really needed. You only get two little paint guards for some of the colours on the model too, which isn't much. In my opinion, I definitely think it should have come in a clamshell pack. It's only one sprue and it doesn't have any extra spare parts. It should have come in a sprue like the Imagifier, and I also think it should have been costed at the same price. It certainly isn't worth the £22.50 that the Hospitaller costs, and even the Hospitaller, it's a little bit questionable whether it's worth £22.50. But at least that one comes in a thicker box, you've got spare parts, and it comes on two sprues. It's actually the same size box as the Canon S. This Dialogus model though, I don't think that's the case. What we'll do though is we'll have a look at all the detail on her. Then we'll do some size comparisons with the other elite choices and other models in the Sisters of Battle army, and then I'll go through all of her rules. So firstly, she comes on this Terminator base, this 40mm base. You'll notice that she doesn't really have a scenic base at all, but she does have this floating kind of book stand thing going on. I don't really want to call it a pulpit, but it does hold like a scroll and some candles, if you can see some of the detail in there. There's a fair bit of detail, you know, there's switches and there's a little slider there, and then there's a speaker, so maybe that's the volumes, who actually knows. There's some cabling as well coming from this parchment. Then you've got these tassels coming from the top. She's actually got a lot of detail there with the scrolls that are in capsules to protect them, but you're kind of going to miss that with this platform there now, which does suck a bit. Then you've got this sheet with a purity seal on. You've got some more purity seals there, and you've got a book that's held open. You've got a little skull there with an ecclesiarchy symbol, and then it's flanked by four candles, and then a fleur-de-lis icon there, and actually on her Dialogus staff she's got a fleur-de-lis icon which looks like there's a speaker in each side of it. It's inlaid with loads of writing, it looks like. It says divine and pious, I think that says. So that will be in the description of the video. I think it's divine and pious, yeah. So it's nice that they've got some writing on the rod there. She's got a bolt pistol hidden away and some more scrolls. Power plant is a bit fancier with this metal work on the back holding the book and the candles and everything together. Her face is all right as well. You know, she's got the hair swaying about, she's got a fleur-de-lis icon, she's got a hood up. Yeah, she's a good looking model, but as I said in my unboxing and first look, because the writing isn't inlaid at all for the scrolls and the parchment and stuff, you're going to have to be really good with making up small little fiddly writing, and if you're not very good at that, then it's going to look odd having blank pages, because they're quite large areas, especially that one there. It's part of the model, but I can kind of see why Games Workshop have done that. It gives you a canvas, pardon the pun, to write and doodle your own workings and things. And if you did get a second one, you could mix it up a bit, but if you've got a second one, it's going to look exactly the same, and that's why I think it's at this price point. Typically Games Workshop price models higher than usual if they think only people are going to buy one of them, to kind of recoup the cost. And I think that's the case with this. The Hospitaller, you can get away with getting 2 or maybe 3 of those and sprucing them up a bit, but this one is going to look the same. You know, you haven't got a choice of heads, which is a bit annoying, but then again, she's a loud hailer in a way. She's shouting about, so you don't really want her with a helmet on. And you could remove that, but then, you know, you'd have to put it on another base and she's going to look awkward being on a big base without this thing. So there are, you know, questions to be had for this model in terms of its pricing and its design, and you know, but if anything, it looks really cool, and I think Games Workshop are missing a trick. If you're a big fan of Game of Thrones, I think she looks like one of the Sisters of the Faith, and I think she should have had a bell on there, and she should have been shouting shame as well. But anyway, that's just a little Game of Thrones reference. I think they could have done that for this Dialogus. The model is screaming out for that, but there we go. So that's the model, but it really depends if you really like the look of the model, and then that can sort of justify the price a little bit more. Let's do some size comparisons with other Elite choices. So you've got the Imagifier, which is my second favourite out of the three after the Hospitaller. I just absolutely love the Hospitaller. It might be her armour actually, I don't know. But anyway, that's where she sort of sits. She's in the middle in terms of base sizes. She's got 40mm. I think the Hospitaller has got a 50mm base there, big boy base, and scenic base wise, obviously the Hospitaller's got a big scenic base. The Dialogus has only got this stand, and the Imagifier hasn't got one. Maybe if you priced her in between these, like at £20 or so, Games Workshop, that would have been a bit more justifiable, but you're talking the difference of £2.50 here. I honestly think that she should have been priced the same as the Imagifier. But that's where she stands up with those. Let's do some size comparisons so you can see her size. In a way, she is a little bit taller than all three just because she's raising her head, but you know, clearly the Imagifier with that simulacrum or whatever it is, you know, she dwarfs the other models compared to a couple of Canonesses, you know, because you want her nearby them. I think that's where she looks with them. So again, a little bit taller than both of those and does stand out. Next to an Anchorite, I get the name right this time. Yeah, she's, you know, standard troop choice compared to this heavy support one. And then I've just got Saint Celestine because, yeah, obviously Saint Celestine's much taller, flying about on that base. And then finally, I want to put her next to recently finished Immolator. So that's how she looks next to one of those. You can fit her in one of those, you can fit the Hospitaller in one of those as well. Absolutely no problems. So I hope those size comparisons have helped. And my final two size comparisons just with Space Marines really. So there's an Primaris on the right and a normal Space Marine on the left. I think she is actually taller than a Space Marine, normal one. But compared to a Primaris, Primaris is, yeah, head and shoulders above her, which is the way it should be. So there you go, that's how she stacks up. Taller than I expected. Now another model that you may or may not be familiar with in the Ecclesiarchy is Tadius the Purifier, who is a Zealot Ministorum priest. So technically you can use him as a preacher, you can use him as a missionary if you really like. But this is the closest that we've got to some kind of preacher kind of model other than the Dark Apostle for Chaos Space Marines. But as you can see there, she dwarfs him in terms of height and size. She is wearing the power armor. He's a big boy anyway. He's got this servo skull with a gun on, and again he's got a nice book and fancy tassels on his robe. He's got this power mace thing as well, and yeah, he's got kind of powered armor stuff. There's a vent and things going on, and a big book cover case, and then he's got a pistol there. So I just wanted to make that comparison with another kind of preacher type model, because when I first saw the Dialogus, I thought that the Tadius would be a little bit bigger than her, but he's actually, yeah, smaller than I thought. Okay, and I hope all of those size comparisons have helped. This is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Dialogus. So you'll find her in the Elite section of the army. She's a power points cost of a 2, which is the same power points cost as the other two Elite choices, the Hospitaller and the Imagifier. She is a points cost of 35, making her 10 points cheaper than the Imagifier, and the Dialogus staff is free, which is brilliant. So she is just a straight up 35 points. Now her stat line reads movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 4+, Ballistic skill 3+, strength and toughness are both 3, 4 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 8 and a save of 3+. That's exactly the same stat line as a Hospitaller, and as we know from a previous review, the only difference she has with the Imagifier is just she's not as good in combat. Her weapon skills 4+ instead of 3+. What she's armed with, she's armed with a bolt pistol and Dialogus staff. The bolt pistol works as usual, but the Dialogus staff adds 1 to her strength. It's got 0 AP and only a damage of 1. So that only bumps her strength up to a 4, which is, yeah, not very good. Now abilities, she has Axe of Faith, Sacred Rites and Shield of Faith, so she's getting that invulnerable 6+ save. Now the following abilities is really why you're paying the 35 points. So the first one is Laud Hailer, or Lord Hailer, I think it's Laud Hailer. Add 1 to the leadership characteristic of Adeptus Sororitas units whilst they are within 6 inches of any friendly models with this ability. So your Battle Sisters squad now have a leadership of 8 and the Superior have a 9. The Zephyrim have a 9 and the Superior have a 10. So that's really good, really helpful to bump up the leadership. Spiritual Fortitude. When this model would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound in the psychic phase, roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. That's alright. I mean, 3+ normal, 6+ invulnerable. She's got the 4 wounds. That's alright. That does protect her against the mortal wounds a little bit by having that 5+ feel no pain. And then the final ability is Stirring Rhetoric. When you perform an act of faith for a model or unit whilst it is within 6 inches of any friendly models with this ability, you can increase or decrease the value of 1 miracle dice used by 1 before you use it to a maximum of 6 and a minimum of 1. This is not cumulative with any other abilities that increase or decrease the value of a miracle dice, e.g. the Triumph of St. Catherine's Relics of the Matriarch's ability. So that's the main reason why you're going to get her. Is not because she's amazing in combat, maybe not because of the leadership, and maybe not because she's got a 5+ feel no pain against the mortal wounds in the psychic phase. It's because if she's within 6 inches of friendly models and that you use a miracle dice and you increase it or decrease it by 1, that could have quite a big impact on that unit's use of the miracle dice. Keywords are Imperium, Adeptus Ministorum, Adeptus Sororitas, Character, Infantry and Dialogus. So there you go. Apart from a cool looking model, she does have a bit of a function in the game with that Stirring Rhetoric, but I would keep her away from combat as possible, just to buff your characters and to help with those miracle dice. What do you guys think of the model and the rules? Please do put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.